Oh, you damn right. Let's go recruiting, recruiting, recruiting. It never stops. So we get you a recruiting hour every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'm Chad Hastings. That guy is Jason Sukamel of orangebloods.com. We're going to get into some big names today. In fact, I'm not sure if we're talking about anybody today that's not ranked like sixth best at their position in the country or better. So you want to talk some big dogs? We'll talk big dogs today. Hook 'em emojis already flying in. Uncle Mickey,
All
good
the
to
way from Canada with Uncle Mickey. Yeah.
hope everything is going well north of the border and it's not too cold for you right now. Hope it's a beautiful Canadian spring right now. The recruiting hour, as you see, brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Before we get into some of these particulars, let me tell you a little bit more about John and his crew at Longhorn Wealth Management. We told you about it. A free 90-minute private consultation can be yours. You can learn how to working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, which everybody's trying to do this time of year, and secure your legacy. So you can call John and the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. Schedule that free 90-minute private consultation with John today. John always sends us messaging with all kinds of hookums in it. He is a big Longhorn supporter. He and his 6 siblings and his wife are all UT folks. So I know they were highly interested when that coin was flipped in women's basketball to decide who the number 1 seed was. Unfortunately for Texas, it ended up South Carolina, but maybe fortunately for Texas, it ended up South Carolina because there are a couple elements where maybe you want to be the 2 seed in this tournament. So I know John and his crew are following all that. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being a great sponsor of the recruiting hour. Jason, we got like I said, we got some big names to hit today. One of them that you and I haven't talked about yet, ironically, is a guy named Aaron Gregory. And it is a name that I kind of knew over the last few weeks and months. And as a follower of A&M football, this is a guy who is committed to A&M, but it's also a guy Texas is interested in. So let's start there with a what may be a house divided, or maybe it's house divided and even more kind of a battle. What do we need to know about Aaron?
Yeah, you and I, let's make a pledge, Chad. We're going to keep it civil. We're not going to argue. We're not going to poke fun at each other. Okay. All right.
There you
So
go.
a
That's
little
it.
house divided / recruiting hour. But
Right.
Aaron Gregory is a dynamic receiver out of Douglasville, Georgia. He's been committed to Texas A&M since October of last year, which is pretty interesting in itself. That we'll dig into that a little bit. The fact that he committed to A&M so early, but I've been hearing really for 3 or 4 months that Texas is really working on him, and think people in the Texas program think they have a pretty good shot to get that door open, and then maybe a potential flip down the road. Well, I communicated with Aaron this week, just kind of sent some messages back and forth, and he does have his Texas A&M official visit set up for June 5th, I believe it is, and he's looking at that following weekend, June 13th, for a Texas official visit. So that's kind of up in the air. He's waiting to see how his 7-on-7 schedule plays out. But right now, tentatively, he's scheduled to visit Texas June 13th. And if that doesn't work out because of 7-on-7, he will find a different weekend to visit. So I think there's a real genuine interest there. I've heard, again, behind the scenes that there's a little bit of confidence in Austin and in their position with Aaron and some other guys. So pretty interesting dynamic. I mean, again, he's been committed to A&M for not quite 6 months, but close to 6 months. But Texas just keeps chipping away there. They're going to get him on campus for an official visit. We'll see where it goes from there. But good development for Texas. He's a national, double check that, number 42 nationally, Chad. So not quite in that 5-star range, but he's within striking distance. If he has a good season or a good spring, good summer, moves up about 10 spots, then he's in that 5-star conversation. So legit big-time player, legit national top 100 player. Early A&M commitment, has a teammate, a defensive end, who's also committed to Texas A&M. So we'll see if Texas, I need to kind of circle back with the defensive end and see if Texas is going to try to get both of them on campus. But I know for a fact Aaron Gregory, the wide receiver, will take a Texas official visit sometime in June.
So, Jason, I know there's been some discussion. In fact, we had it yesterday in a little bit on the modcast about A&M and this 26 class and how many, out-of-state guys and Georgia guys there are. But on the other side of that discussion, because he's Georgia, because obviously the teammate would be, talk to me about the Bulldogs. I won't disrespect them enough to keep them out of the conversation. How focused should Texas and Texas A&M be on Georgia in this thing?
Well, I mean, Georgia's offered, right? Everybody's offered both these players. They're both big-time national players. Devin Carter's his teammate. No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong guy. I'm sorry. I'm doing it the wrong guy. His teammate that's a teammate of his too. He's got a lot of teammates, but a lot of good players in that program. But how focused should you be on Georgia? Georgia has offered Aaron Gregory, but he's not talked about visiting them yet. So, I need to talk to Aaron directly and kind of get a vibe. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. I was fortunate just to get some text exchanges with him. I might have to reach out to like his coaches or dig around to some people in that area. But the fact that he committed so early to A&M tells me, okay, he's pretty open-minded to leaving the state, obviously, right? Could he circle back? I mean, listen, it's Georgia. You can never discount Georgia. Could that happen? Absolutely. I mean, but right now, the only visits he mentioned to me, I didn't specifically ask only about Texas. Jordan Carter. Okay, there's
Jordan. I was going to say the other guy I see with Douglasville is Jordan Carter, right?
Jordan Carter. Yes, exactly.
That's at the end.
But I asked him about official visits, and the only ones he mentioned were Texas and Texas A&M. No mention of Georgia. So now, could that change? And they do have a receiver, Devin Carter, by the way, who's committed to Auburn, formerly committed to Florida State. Texas is offering him. So Texas, and that's a power high school, Douglas County in Douglasville, Georgia, and Texas has offered multiple players. So I don't know if Texas is going in on Jordan Carter just yet. I haven't heard that he's visiting. I'm trying to kick the tires on that this week to find out maybe for the War Room. But to get back to your question, Chad, sorry. Georgia, how big of a threat? Right now, I mean, I would put him on the peripheral. Because, I mean, he doesn't have a visit set up. He's not making plans to visit Georgia. Again, could that change? I need to check with some Georgia people, check around. But for whatever reason, he just seems to be focused right now, obviously on Texas A&M in that Texas visit for June 13th.
Also on Aaron, I see him listed 6'3", right? A little bit of a bigger, taller receiver.
Yeah, 6'3", 175-ish. I saw him. He was in the Navy All-American Bowl. He's one of the, they invited a handful of underclassmen, like Felix Ojo was down there, but Aaron Gregory was at that Navy All-American Bowl down in San Antonio. He's a tall, lean receiver, but I mean, again, big time playmaker.
Yeah, obviously, I understand from Sark's perspective how you might want a guy that's a big-time recruit in A&M's class, and certainly a guy that, like you said, Georgia and all these teams have offered. But when I saw that 6'3", just from the football perspective, I thought, well, that hasn't exactly been Sark's favorite thing. What do you know about Aaron in terms of the style? You mentioned 6'3" and kind of long and lean. Are we talking like a long, lean 6'3" burner kind of guy? Because we know Sark likes speed.
Yeah, no, he can. I don't ever look for track times, but yeah, he can definitely stretch the field. Again, down in San Antonio, he did some of that. I saw him in a couple of the practices. But Sark has traditionally gone for, we've seen and had success with the Xavier Worthies in Alabama, the smaller, quicker receivers. That's starting to change, and I think Sark's been pretty open about it. Like, they want big guys who can run. Ryan Wingo is a big guy who can run, has legit track times. Jamie French, Kalik Lockett, those are big guys who can both stretch the field. That's what Aaron Gregory gives you. Now, I say that, and you still got to have the shorter, quicker slot guys that can, be kind of dynamic in small spaces. So a little bit of both. But I think Sark, especially in the SEC, understands, hey, listen, he would take Xavier Worthy in a New York Minute. Who wouldn't, right? But if you can find a guy that's 6'2", 6'3", like Aaron Gregory, who can still stretch the field, still has the speed to do those types of things, it makes him even more appealing. That's what Aaron Gregory can do for you.
If you guys want to jump in the chat, Barb's 10 earlier noticed, hey, don't see anybody in the chat. Yeah, if y'all want to jump in, maybe everybody's got chores and stuff to do. But thank y'all for jumping in today, checking out the Recruiting Hour. That Specs chat is starting to fill up. And we do want to thank the good folks at Specs. If you need to get stocked up, they are the place. Here's Lisa.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because
Yeah, Lisa loves a good house divided battle in recruiting. That's always fun. Jason, anything else on Aaron Gregory before we move to some running back discussion?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, I'm kind of waiting to see. He's waiting to see when exactly that Texas visit will happen, but it is going to happen. He was pretty adamant. Hey, it's a matter of his 7-on-7 schedule. There's a particular 7-on-7 tournament he might be competing in. So he's looking at June 13th. That would be big for Texas because a couple of things. That's June 13th is going to be Texas's biggest official visit weekend, the 13th and the 20th. We'll talk about some guys here in a minute who are going to visit on the 6th, but the 13th and the 20th are Texas's two big weekends. And Texas is still working with Dia Bell, their quarterback commitment, on when Dia Bell is going to visit. So, last week I checked with Dia people, his father, and I said, hey, do you guys have a date locked in? And they said, no, Texas wants us either to come in the 13th or the 20th. But they're kind of waiting to see what players are going to be in what weekends. Mm-hmm. And then they want Dia to come in and kind of be a recruiter for them on one of those two weekends. So if Aaron Gregory comes in on the 13th, they may say, hey, Dia, why don't you go ahead and come on in on the 13th? Yeah. Try to work some of your magic on Aaron Gregory on the 13th. If it's the 20th, they may ask Dia to come in on the 20th. And someone asked me on Orange Bloods last week, like, why can't Dia do both? And I was like, he could. I mean, one would be an official visit, and the other one, he'd have to pay his own way to come in. But I don't think Dia Bell and his family would have a problem coming to Austin 2 weekends in a row. So, we're talking about June. We're talking 3 months down the road. But, it wouldn't be at all surprising to see Dia Bell come in 2 weekends in a row and try to be a recruiter on guys like Aaron Gregory for Texas, both big recruiting weekends.
Yeah, we've been telling you for a while now, keep June 13th and June 20th in mind. And if Aaron Gregory can get to campus on June 13th, that would obviously be huge. All right, Jason, let's get an update on this running back discussion. Two huge in-state targets. The Longhorns would love to get them both. We've talked about them both. Which one do we start with this week? Osborne or Edwards?
We'll start with Edwards, and we also need to touch on Xavier Crowell, the out-of-state running back target. But, running back recruiting has been really interesting in the last few weeks. Tashard Choice, it leaves the Texas program to go to the Detroit Lions. And immediately that day, you have Xavier Crowell saying, hey, I'm no longer going to visit Texas. KJ Edwards says, hey, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. Javian Osborne says similar. I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. Then Chad Scott gets hired. Xavier Crowell says, okay, I am now going to visit Texas again. I'm putting that back on the calendar. Javian Osborne says, I think I'm not going to visit Texas. I'm taking that off my list. KJ Edwards says, okay, I'm still going to kind of wait things out a little bit. Well, KJ Edwards has been talking to Chad Scott. Chad Scott's been talking to all these running backs, but I talked to KJ this weekend. I thought it was interesting. He said, hey, yeah, I've talked to Chad Scott. I really liked, my conversation with him. And ever since he said he called me the day he got hired. And he said, ever since then, he's been hitting me or my dad up every single day, trying to build that kind of bridge and build that relationship. So KJ Edwards is going to go ahead and visit Texas that weekend of June 6th, which is the same weekend Xavier Crowell will be visiting. And with KJ, every time I've talked to him, Chad, and this is long before Tashard Choice left the Texas program. I mean, it was all about relationships with him. He said, hey, man, relationships are huge to me. I want to be able to trust my coach, my position coach, and the people around me. Well, Chad Scott is doing a really good job hitting the ground running, trying to build that relationship up with him and his family. So that visit is going to stick for KJ Edwards. It's for June 6th. In my 3-2-1 column, I predicted, Chad, because I've always said, hey, Texas is going to get one of Javian Osborne or KJ Edwards. Maybe both, right? I even thought there was a time they might be able to get both. Well, I don't think that's going to happen now. But with Javian Osborne, I'm going to say cooling on Texas, but I mean, a little bit. He canceled that visit. He could still reschedule it. That's still a possibility. But with Javian kind of peeling back on Texas a little bit, I think that increases the likelihood of KJ Edwards in this class. I mean, Texas has to get one of them. I flat out asked KJ, I said, hey, he's got to visit to Texas. He's got Texas A&M, he's got Baylor, and he's got SMU. Those are his 4 official visits. I asked him, I said, okay, that tells me you're probably looking to stay in state. He goes, well, not completely. There are some out-of-state schools I'm still somewhat interested in. I mean, Notre Dame just offered him this week. Alabama just offered him. But he did tell me, I said, well, PJ, are there any ones that are standing out? He did say Texas and Texas A&M. So in the end, I think it's going to be an in-state SEC battle. I think it's going to be Texas or Texas A&M. I think Texas, it's such a big need. They can't afford to lose him and Javian Osborne, which Javian looks like he may be drifting away a little bit. KJ Edwards winds up in this Texas class, so Chad Scott continues to do a good job. And
in terms of the UT visit, also on the 13th, or is he a different day?
He's coming in June 6th. He'll be June 6th. Xavier Crowell will be June 6th as well. Xavier Crowell's a Rivals 100 back. I think Xavier Crowell, he's ranked number 34, and KJ Edwards is 35 nationally. So they're boom, boom right there next to each other on the Rivals 100. So both elite prospects. But Xavier Crowell and KJ Edwards are both coming in on June 6th. Xavier Crowell is actually coming in, I should note, he's coming in late March for an unofficial visit. So he's going to have 2 visits. I think KJ Edwards will come in for an unofficial visit as well. He told me, because it's a big probability that he comes in for a Texas spring practice or a scrimmage. He just didn't have a date locked in just yet. But his official visit will be June 6th with Xavier Crowell.
Gotcha. Real quick before we leave Edwards, did you say the 4 visits are Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, and SMU?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Can we get that sponsored by Trans Am? Please. Old school Southwest Conference recruiting battle.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And I asked him why those 4, and he goes, those 4 have been recruiting me since I was a freshman. Those are the ones who've been just loyal to him as a freshman. So that's why he's choosing to visit those 4. Well, and there may be others. I mean, he could schedule others, but those are the ones he's focused on right now. So.
You mentioned the relationship thing, Jason, and when I read your notes on KJ, and obviously we encourage everybody to check out orangebloods.com. The 321 is up, and we're pulling from that as we do kind of each and every recruiting hour, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. But one of the things that stood out to me when you were talking about the, reaches out to his dad or him once a day. My favorite Lou Holtz line of all time is I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. I mean, you can show someone quickly, but there's a certain amount of time you really have to show them that interest. And when it's important to the kid like this, that's great news if you're a Longhorn fan, that Chad Scott hit the ground running on this. He let him know immediately that he was important. And now he would tell you he's got a relationship with Coach Scott. Weeks ago, he would have thought, there's no way, right? Oh, Choice is my guy or whatever. Things can change quickly if the coach does it right.
Yeah, and I think Chad Scott did a really nice job of, seriously, he called these guys the day he got announced as the new Texas running backs coach. He's obviously stayed in touch with them since. And listen, I mean, he's not calling them having hour-long conversations every night, but it's a simple text message or a DM, just a, hey man, hope you're having a great day, or have a great weekend, whatever it is. I mean, it's just something small to let KJ, let his dad know, his family, hey man, I'm thinking about you. You're a priority. You're important to us down here in Austin, and, trying to build this relationship as quickly as I can. I think he's done a really good job of that. And I heard about, about Chad Scott before, when he got hired. I talked to people at West Virginia, and they said, man, he's really good about building relationships and building trust of the people in his running backs room and the recruits, obviously. So we're starting to see that already come to fruition at Texas.
Yeah. Before we continue our conversation, looks like Xavier threw us a $5 super chat. Xavier, we appreciate it. Who would you pick as the number 1 must-get recruit in this class for Sark?
There's 2 ways to look at that, Xavier. And one, you can say, okay, who's the highest ranked guy? Okay, so it's got to be a 5-star, right? And then you could also look at it okay, who's the biggest position of need? Well, coincidentally, those kind of go hand in hand with this one. The answer to me is pretty easy. It's Felix Ojo, the offensive lineman out of Mansfield. He's just recently got bumped up to a 5-star player. He is, let me confirm that, I don't want to lie to you, number 11 in the country now on the Rivals 100. So 5-star prospect, number 3 offensive tackle in the country. It's a big-time need position. I mean, listen, Trevor Gooseby could be a one-and-done start as far as a starter, one-and-done player for Texas. Trevor Gooseby is going to start at left tackle. If he has the kind of year people think he's capable of, he might wind up going pro next year. I mean, he's capable of that from, just what he showed in limited action last year. So Texas needs to reload along that offensive line. To me, it's the biggest priority. So that tells me a guy like Felix Ojo and John Turntine and Zayden Krempin and some of these out-of-state offensive linemen Texas is recruiting are all huge priorities. Texas needs to get 4, probably 5 of those guys, maybe even 6 if they could pull it off. But Felix Ojo has kind of risen to the cream of the crop right there. Like I said, number 11 nationally, ranked as a 5-star prospect. Navy All-American participant, was fantastic. Texas is making him a huge priority. He does have that Texas visit set for June 13th. He's scheduled a few others to places like Oklahoma and Ohio State and Michigan. So it's going to be heavy competition, but I think Texas is in a pretty good spot there. And Felix Ojo would be the answer to that question for me, Xavier.
And Xavier, for those fans that don't know, Jason just mentioned it. Number 3 offensive tackle in the country, according to Rivals. John Turntine, number 5. So Ojo ranked just a little higher than Turntine, but obviously both of them right up there at the tip top of the list. By the way, Jason, if Ojo's coming on the 13th and Aaron Gregory's coming in on the 13th, that might be your Dia Bell weekend. A guy that may protect him, a guy he may be throwing to, maybe have Dia show up on the 13th if you can.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, you got like Caden Finley, another big-time receiver. He's coming in on the 20th, so, we'll see how it all I think Turntine, I believe Turntine is on the 20th for Texas. So because he's going to Tennessee on the 13th, I believe, if I've got that right. It's tricky. Like, which you can only bring him in. I mean, he could come for 2, but you can only pay for him on an official visit for 1. So which one are you going to pick if you're Texas? We'll see.
Xavier, thank you so much for that super chat. If y'all want to throw us a super chat, it'll go right to the top of the list. Real quick, Jason, before we leave the running back discussion, you mentioned Edwards and Crowell both could be coming in, look to be coming in on June 6th. Is it that combination that you think maybe has Osborne kind of leaning away from Texas? And then who's the danger school? If Osborne doesn't end up at Texas, is there a clear sort of, other school for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything to do with those other 2 guys that maybe has Osborne kind of looking elsewhere. There was just in Javion's eyes, there was a bit of a lack of communication as Texas was transitioning with its running backs coach position. Again, I've said this, I don't fault either side. I mean, I understand Javion, hey, would have liked to maybe had a call every few days to just kind of update on what's going on. But I mean, these Texas coaches, have a million things going on, literally. Some were on vacation. I mean, they're recruiting other players, so they're trying to fill their coaching staff, obviously. So, in hindsight, maybe a phone call or 2 would have helped smooth things over. But, I don't really fault either side for the way they handled things or the way they view things. So, but I don't think it has anything to do with the other 2 running backs. And again, I do think with Javion Osborne, Texas can, and I think they will, smooth that over. I would be mildly surprised, Chad, if he doesn't wind up taking a Texas official visit. I still think that's going to happen. He's leaving that date open. It's not like he canceled Texas and filled it with someone else. He just canceled that Texas visit, said, I'm going to keep it open, just kind of see what happens. So I think Texas can get it back on the books. Who would be the primary threat for Javion Osborne? It would probably be Michigan, would be the team I would favor right now. I've kind of felt like Texas and Michigan were kind of 1 and 1A in that race before all this stuff happened with Texas. Now with him kind of peeling back on Texas a little bit, I think Michigan is probably in the best position for Javion Osborne.
Interesting. All right. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. It is the recruiting hour on this Wednesday. A lot of good running back stuff there. And by the way, Javion Osborne listed by Rivals as the number 3 running back. Speaking of number 3 at their position in the country, Jason, it's time for a cool name. Let's combine a cool name with the number 3 linebacker in the country, according to Rivals. I'll give it a shot. Talanoa Ili.
I think you nailed it, Chad. Golf clap. Yeah. I talked to Talanoa, and I think you nailed it, I should say, because
yeah, right.
I talked to Talanoa last night, and I asked him, I said, hey, did I butcher your name or did I say that right? He goes, no, you got it, Talanoa. But I didn't ask him on his last name. So I know you're at least 50% right. I can't guarantee you got it 100% right. So I should have asked him, like, okay, we'll probably be talking on our video, like, give me your last name pronunciation too. But Talanoa Ili is a linebacker out of Orange, California, Orange Lutheran High School. He's a guy that I went back and looked at him because he's taking a Texas official visit. Okay, that's what prompted me to call him. I was like, I just kind of want to introduce you to our Orange Bloods readers. Well, Texas offered him, Chad, back in 2023. So that had to have been like Jeff Choate, I'm thinking, that maybe offered him.
Okay.
I think. But I said, he's never been to Texas. And I said, okay, what's making you want to get to Austin for one of your official visits? And he said, man, Coach Sark has been recruiting me since I was a freshman. And Johnny Nansen, while he was at Arizona, was recruiting Talanoa aggressively. He said, since I've been a freshman. So with both those guys at Texas, he goes, I just want to get there and check it out and see what it's all about. So, young man from California, he's got official visits. I'm going to just rattle these off in order. Starting in May, he goes to UCLA, BYU, and then in June, he's got Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Texas, Southern Cal, and Oregon. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 official visits on the calendar right now. So, I asked him, I said, hey, man, is there 1 or 2 of those schools maybe that you're, I said, I get it. Things can change, but is there 1 or 2 that maybe everybody's chasing right now? And he goes, no, honestly, he goes, they're all pretty even until I get out there and see everybody. I can't really tell you where Texas would fit in because I haven't seen Texas yet. So, but genuinely interested in Texas. Like I said, Texas has done a good job. They've recruited him for a while. Here's an interesting little nugget. And I don't think this has been put out anywhere.
Okay.
I'm going to ruin some of my war room stuff, but his cousin, he said, is Brandon Baker, the Texas offensive lineman.
Okay.
Yeah. And he goes, that's another reason I want to get out there. And I asked him, well, what's Brandon told you? He said, oh man, he tells me how awesome it is and this, that, and the other. So Texas has a little bit of ace up its sleeve in this one, that might help kind of kick the door open a little bit more. But yeah, he's a really good player, Rivals 100, top 50-ish nationally. I went and looked at his film this morning, kind of gave it a rewatch. He's a tall he's listed 6'4", 220. So he's a tall, lean linebacker, but he's got a frame. He'll put on some weight at the college level. But man, this guy is shot out of a cannon, Chad. I mean, you talk about running sideline to sideline, and he likes to hit. I mean, he's lean, but he likes to hit. And I mean, I'm not talking just drag you to the ground. He wants to drive you into the ground. So really interesting player, really big time player, and has a very genuine interest in Texas.
And that is June 20, if I'm hearing your calendar layout right, or is it the 13th?
He is June 13th.
He has another one on the 13th. Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly, he's got that June 20th weekend open. He goes Texas June 13th, and he's got midweek before Texas, he's got a Notre Dame visit. Midweek after Texas, he goes to USC, and then he takes an Oregon midweek visit. So he's got his June 20th weekend open, but that June 13th weekend is when he's scheduled to be at Texas. That's going to be a busy. I think he goes May 27th. June 6th is a Saturday. He goes to Oklahoma. May 27th is BYU. June 6th, he goes to Oklahoma. June 10th, which would be like a Tuesday or something, he goes to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
June 13th, Friday, Texas. June 17th, which is another Tuesday, USC. So like in a 2-week span, less than 2 weeks, he has 4 official visits he's going to cram in there. So we'll see if he winds up taking them. He may wind up getting burned out, but right now his intention is to take all 7 of those official visits.
And remind me and the fans, Jason, how many official visits do I get? How many official visits are we on?
You can take as many as you want now, Chad. You can take as many as you want.
Unlimited official visits?
Yeah. It was, for as long as you and I have been alive, the limit was 5. But I think last year was the first year they said, hey, no, you can take unlimited. But most guys still kind of stay in that 5 range. To see a guy take 7 is still pretty unique. Usually kind of 4 or 5 is usually what we still end up seeing. And I've talked to guys who say, oh, yeah, I'm going to take 10 visits. I'm like, okay, I get it, man. They're fun. You get spoiled. But about four visits in, they're like, okay, this is really exhausting. It's like they end up canceling a bunch. So that's why I said, we'll see if Talanoa ends up taking. He has 7 on the calendar right now. We'll see if he ends up taking all 7. He may get burned out halfway through.
That is wild. I guess I didn't realize that. Wow. So if the schools are good to fit the bill, I could take 20, 25 official visits
from May through
early
May through the end of June. You could spend different weekend and midweek in a different city all across the country. Just travel, dude. So see the country. Why not? Right.
That is crazy. All right. Another big name to add to that June 13th weekend, Talanoa Ili. We'll get a double check, I'm sure, on that last name at some point, but very cool. Jason was able to reach out there. Jason referenced the War Room. Remember, Thursday nights is War Room night at orangebloods.com, the very latest in recruiting and what's going on with the team. Anwar has been breaking stories left and right, including this Neil Brown story that happened this week with the former West Virginia coach that's now going to be an offensive analyst for Texas. Jason, I was going to have you mention Felix Ojo. You did it anyway, talking about that 5th star. I wanted to make sure we mentioned that. That is something that got that was earlier this week, or was that last week when everything got finally? This is the final. Well, I guess it's not the final re-rack on everything, but this is the latest update on the star rankings.
Yeah, that just happened this week, and I'm glad you brought that up. We've never talked about this. So Rivals, listen, 20. Oh my goodness, Chad, do you realize?
Here we go. This
week, hell, it might be today for all I know. I know it was the first week of March. It'll be 23 years I've been at Rivals and OrangeBloods.com.
Whew, 23 years.
And I remember that because I got married on March 9th, 23 years ago. So I started work on Orange Bloods. Like 3 or 4 days later, I got married and then took my honeymoon and came back to work. So seriously, dude, it literally might be like today might be my 23-year anniversary. I should know that, but some point this week is my 23-year anniversary. So my point of that is that in 23 years with Rivals and Orange Bloods, they've always had kind of this kind of kooky schedule. I've always thought, if I'm being honest, like, okay, we're going to update rankings here, and then 2.5 months later, and then 3 months later, and then we'll do it one more time in February. And I'm like, why so strict and rigid? So now they've changed it. Starting this year, they're going to update these rankings once a month, which I think we should, man. There's so many recruiting events, and between spring visits and summer camps and summer 7-on-7, or spring and summer 7-on-7, obviously football season during the fall. I mean, you get so many different chances to evaluate these guys. So they're going to start doing it every month. So yes, you're exactly right. That update of the rankings just happened this week, and there'll be another one the first week of April. They'll do it every month all the way into February. So there's going to be a lot of room for movement up and down for all these guys we're talking about. But yes, Felix Ojo jumped all the way up to number 11, got his 5th star. That just happened earlier this week.
And just for those that are into that discussion, John Turntine's still a 4-star at this point?
He's still a 4-star. I don't have
that's a 5-star by the end of this process, right?
Well, he's right on the fringe. And I think he dropped, and I'm going to give me a second, I'll find it. I think he dropped he's 36. He dropped 1 spot. So he dropped 1 spot in this ranking. 36th would be just outside of 5-star. Traditionally, Rivals tries to give 32. So he's right on the fringe of that 5-star. And so is KJ Edwards. So is Xavier Crowell. So right on the fringe of that 5-star status. Now, I'd say John didn't go to the Under Armour camp a few weeks ago. Rivals has its camp up in the Dallas area. That's in May, so we got a little bit of time. So I hope John comes out to that camp. If he does, he'll get a real thorough evaluation at that camp. He could make a solid move if he comes out there and plays like I think he's capable of.
Yeah. By the way, when Jason starts admitting that he and I are old, you don't need to help.
Don't rub it in. Said I was 11. Yeah. So
what are you doing? I was 11.
Hey, let me do the math. So that means Said's 34. Said, you're no spring chicken, buddy.
I was going to say, Said, come on. 40's coming very quickly.
You'll be there before you know it, Said.
You're almost there. Don't go telling the old man they're old in different ways. Don't do that. The news, the headline, the number 1 song. All right. Exactly. All right. Fine. Jeez.
Man, when we get off this video, I can't believe it. I mean, I knew it was coming up because I always think my time starting with Orange Bloods is around the time I got married. So I'm going to have to go find I think my first ever story that I wrote for Orange Bloods was a Q&A with a young man at the time who went by Vincent Young. So I need to go look at Vincent Young. And I think my first story was with Vincent Young. So I need to look at that and see when that first story would have been. So
what you're saying, Jason, is you decided to ease in with just kind of an average recruit, right? Yeah,
just pick some low hanging fruit, right? No, and I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if he was even committed at that time, Chad. So to Texas
That's
at
so
that time,
funny.
seriously, bear with me. I know this is not very exciting, but I'm scrolling through all these Vince Young stories to see if I can find my first one. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll have to do that off air. But yeah, I think that was my first ever story. So I need to kind of find when that was, and that'll tell me when my anniversary was.
That is great. Hey, Catch, can you give me an interview with like a 3-star quarterback? Nope, I cannot, but I can get you this interview. We're going to check in with this dude.
Well, hell, I'm way off, Chad. I did an interview, but I don't think I had formally started with Catch yet. Was on February 11th. So
of 02?
Technical, if that would be my anniversary, but I don't think I technically started until a couple weeks later. But what the hell? I'm an idiot. Let's just say I've been here 23 years and counting at this point. Okay?
There you go. 23 years. That's all that matters. 23 years was the important part of that. Yeah. That's the key. That was the key element. And you know what, said you didn't need to keep going. I'm not young, but how was the moon landing, Grandpa? Yeah. No.
Now the jokes are coming in. Did Jason start at Orange Bloods before fire was invented? Come on, man.
Come on. That's not.
They're all rolling in at this point. We're making it easy on you guys. Come on, Binks.
Before fire was invented. But I'll just save y'all the typing. No, when Jason joined Orange Bloods, Kirk Bowles was not reporting. No. Don't do that. Don't do it.
I'll tell you this. When I joined Orange Bloods, I didn't have all the gray in my beard that I've got now.
I know.
So my stubble. Yeah.
Yep. We all go through that. Said that's coming for you too. Mr. I'm in my 30s.
I had a little more hair on my head at that point too. So yeah,
that's a whole nother thing. I'm telling you, all this is headed over. Like I got gray on the sides. It's going to attack the top. It's just going to be salt pretty soon.
You'll wear it well, Chad. You'll wear it well, man.
Full salt coverage is where I'm headed. All right, Jason. Anything else before we wrap up today? We hit a lot of stuff. This Aaron Gregory story continues, the running back recruiting, Felix Ojo adding a 5th star, and we even threw in a Talanoa Ili. Anything else we need to hit today?
Yeah, I want to just kind of promote. We're starting to roll out a little bit of new content on Orange Bloods, kind of recruiting stuff. We're trying to spice up our recruiting coverage a little bit. So we did on last Friday, I did one called the Friday Refresh, where we kind of look back at all the news. You know, some little things maybe that people miss, like, okay, hey, this guy set up a visit, or Texas sent out these offers. So we'll do that again this Friday. And one of the things we're going to be doing is not just looking at Texas, because like the dead period lifted on Sunday night, okay, midnight. So we are no longer in a dead period. Teams can have, or programs can have junior days and recruiting visits come. Texas doesn't usually do that. I mean, they may have a couple guys come through here or there, but they'll have their big recruiting weekend event probably in April or late March, maybe, when they're going through spring football. But this weekend, Oklahoma's having a big recruiting weekend. They're bringing in a bunch of guys up to Norman for unofficial visits. So we're going to have a kind of a weekend feature where we're not only, of course, we're going to look at what's going on with Texas, but we're also going to look at, hey, where's Felix Ojo going this weekend? Where's Zayden Krempin going this weekend? I mean, we're going to just, even if they're not visiting Texas, we're going to kind of start monitoring the news and just kind of keep all this. So we'll be keeping a close eye on Oklahoma this weekend. They're going to have some Texas targets there. Drew Evers, the offensive lineman, will be in Oklahoma. Some 2027 players that Texas is recruiting and has already offered will be at Oklahoma this weekend. So we're going to kind of not just monitoring Texas and reporting Texas, we're going to be monitoring places like Oklahoma and A&M, what they're doing, see how much that moves the needle with some of these recruits. So big weekend coming up. Official visit, or not, I'm sorry. Dead period is over, so unofficial visits can start happening this week and this weekend. So we'll have coverage of all that on orangebloods.com.
There's your QR code if you just want to jump in there. Orangebloods.com. War Rooms Thursday night, but like Jason said, all kinds of new content coming, and also constant updates on recruits, the recruits that matter to you guys the most in terms of who Texas is looking at. It is the recruiting hour. We do this every Wednesday at 10 a.m. It is sponsored by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John and his crew are ready to help you out. John's up in the Dallas area, served 15 years as the Dallas Texas X's board member. He's now helping lead out the build out of the Collin County Texas X's chapter. They've been having some cool events lately. Remember, John is offering all Orange Bloods Live fans a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. You can call John and the team at Longhorn Wealth if you prefer that route, 972-707-4900, or go online if that's more your thing, longhornwealth.net. Schedule that free 90-minute private consultation with John today. John is one of our great partners around here. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being a partner with us and for sponsoring the Recruiting Hour. Thanks to everybody that jumped in the chat today. Programming reminders for you. We got House Divided coming up at 12. Speaking of Texas, Jason was just talking about an event Oklahoma's got this weekend and kind of peeking in, keep the friends close, enemies closer. Along those lines, today at 12 at House Divided, Jeff Ketchum's got a nitpick for Steve Sarkisian, and it might have something to do with what the rivals are doing right now that Texas is not doing right now. We'll get into all that at 12. This evening at 6, it's Football with Friends. Alex and Cody continuing to process everything from the combine and talking good football. And then the Outsiders tonight on a Wednesday to celebrate the start for Texas baseball. The Mach 5 Top 5 is your favorite baseball movies of all time. That's tonight on the Outsiders. Old Fashioned tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we got a lot going for you at Orange Bloods Live, and we appreciate your participation. Jason, you got one in your head. You kind of smiled when I said baseball movie. You got a favorite baseball movie above all the others?
There's one. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, and it's everybody's going to say Bull Durham and if you build it, they will come. What is that one? I can't think of it.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Thank you. There's another Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner is pretty much the baseball movie guy, right? Mm-hmm. And it's called For Love of the Game.
Oh, right.
And it's kind of a love story, baseball, and he's trying to pitch his last game and pitch a perfect game.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I love that movie. So it would be for sure be in my top 5, but I'd have to really think about it. But they probably all have Kevin Costner in them.
Yeah. Am I right in saying Kelly Preston's in that movie with him?
Yes, right? I believe that's right. I believe you're right.
That's one of those 3. I've seen the other 2. I've not seen that one.
It's really good. I mean, it's like I said, and you know me, I don't watch many movies, Chad. So but that one for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's a rarity. Like, you're one of the people that makes me feel a little normal when it comes to movies, but there's another one you've seen that I haven't. And am I also right that there's an Augie Garrido cameo in that movie?
He is the manager of it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think he's the manager of the opposing team. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So maybe a little more than a cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember how, but I mean, it's a small part, but yeah, he's
small part, yeah.
Definitely on camera for sure.
Okay. Very cool. Well, there you go. So we'll talk baseball movies tonight on the Outside.
Made me want to rewatch that movie, Chad. It's been probably 20 years since I've seen it. I remember I loved it when I watched it when it came out. Yeah.
There you go. Nothing wrong with a good baseball movie. All right, we'll get all that going on. By the way, Longhorn baseball fans, I love keeping countdowns. Today, as we talk, we are 51 days away from Schlossnagel against the Aggies for the first time.
Well, your Aggies better turn it around, Chad.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the Aggies better figure out some baseball between now and then, because they have not gotten off to a good start. So far, this script, talk about movies, this script has been exactly what a Longhorn fan would have written, Jason. Great start for Texas, and then the Aggies have really stumbled out of the gate. It wasn't just the loss to Texas State. I think they started, 5-4? Was the 9-game run to start the year? Yeah, they're pretty sluggish right now. So They got about 50 days to figure it out. 50 days from tomorrow.
My daughter goes to Texas State, and she is a baseball junkie. Goes to all their home games. She was the one. Well, I told you she sent me screen caps of that game when she was so excited when Texas State beat A&M. And I'm like, turns out it wasn't so impressive. I mean, UTSA just did the same thing. It's like, okay, right. But we'll see. They'll get it right, Chad. Your Aggies will get it on track. But yeah, it's been a surprisingly, number 1 ranked team coming in.
Yeah, and that's the part of it right now that feels a little fraudulent. Are they pretty good? Yeah. Are they really good? Maybe. They certainly aren't a number 1 in the country kind of team.
But baseball's a funny sport too. Like, if a football team came out struggling, you're like, okay, that's what they are. But baseball, it can flip like that. Yeah. The team can get hot overnight and go on a run. So we'll see. I wouldn't bury the Aggies just yet, but yeah, Longhorn fans are loving the first part of the baseball season for sure. So.
And the atmosphere at the Dish on April 25th should be something out of this world. So keep your eyes peeled for all that. All right. And you know what, Matt? Here's a movie I hope gets mentioned tonight because I think that's my favorite baseball movie. I'm a major league guy. I was the right age when I saw that movie the first time and I fell in love. So I'm with you. I'm a major league dude because I'm always looking for comedy in some of my favorite movies. So
yeah,
hopefully
that's got to be top 5 for sure. Yeah.
We'll see where Chance starts. Chance starts the top 5 discussion, and then we work from there before we get to the final list. So y'all join us tonight on The Outsiders. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting those notifications. We do appreciate it. Recruiting never stops. So get to orangebloods.com, as Jason was mentioning. There's always stuff going on. And like you said, this weekend, be keeping an eye on the guys that might be headed to Norman, but obviously that the Longhorns are still interested in. Thank you guys for supporting us. And we will be back next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. with another recruiting hour. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Hope John and his crew are doing well today. Hope all of you are enjoying some early March weather. Hope the wind has died down wherever you are, because my house almost blew away last couple days. Hope you guys are good. Batten down your hatches if the wind is still blowing. Y'all take care.